Some deaths startle us, some deaths silence the world. But then there are those that haunt us forever. In January 1947, a bloodless, severed body was found in a vacant lot in Los Angeles. The victim was Elizabeth Short, a young aspiring actress whose Hollywood dreams were tragically cut short. Her story, known by the nickname the Black Dahlia, became one of the most chilling and mysterious murder cases in American history. And to this day, it remains unsolved. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924, in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. The third of four sisters, Elizabeth grew up in the harsh reality of the Great Depression. When she was 13, her father, a man who once designed miniature golf courses, abandoned the family. At first, people believed he had taken his own life, but years later he wrote a letter to his wife from California, revealing that he was still alive. That betrayal left a deep void in Elizabeth, and from then on, she began dreaming of a different life. Her teenage years were marked by constant moving, bouts of lung illness that sent her to Florida for recovery, and a burning desire to one day appear on the silver screen. With jet black hair, pale skin, and deep red lips, Elizabeth always stood out. But what she longed for wasn't beauty, it was recognition. In 1946, Elizabeth moved to Los Angeles. She survived with the help of friends, constantly changed places to stay, and at times had nowhere to sleep at all. She worked as a waitress, posed for a few audition photos, but Hollywood's bright lights always seemed just out of reach. People remembered her as a girl dressed in black, meticulously made up, walking the streets with a melancholic, magnetic presence. That's how she earned her nickname, the Black Dahlia. But that dream would never come true. On January 15, 1947, Elizabeth's body was found in a vacant lot in the Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. A woman out for a morning walk initially thought it was a discarded store mannequin, until she got closer and screamed. The body had been cut in half at the waist, completely drained of blood. Elizabeth's face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, forming a grotesque, forced smile. Her body was posed in a chillingly deliberate way, the two halves a short distance apart, arms bent above her head, legs spread as if on display. Police arrived at the scene in shock. The media quickly dubbed it an artistic murder, a brutal crime staged as if the killer were sending a message. And the victim was a young woman with dreams too big, swallowed whole by the very city that promised them. Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, took her final bow before she ever had the chance to play her first role. On the morning of January 15, 1947, around 10 a.m., a woman named Betty Bersinger was pushing a stroller along Norton Avenue in the Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles when she stumbled upon a sight that left her frozen in place. In the middle of an empty lot near the sidewalk lay a body, but not in the way she expected. "I thought it was a broken mannequin," she later told police, "until I saw her face." The body had been severed at the waist, with the upper and lower halves placed a few inches apart. Not a drop of blood was found on the ground. The victim's face was ghostly pale like wax, her eyes wide open and lifeless, and her mouth had been sliced from ear to ear, forming a deranged, haunting smile etched into the memory of everyone who saw it. The body wasn't dumped, it was posed. The arms were neatly placed above the head, elbows bent. The legs were spread, with the torso facing upward. People would say this wasn't just a crime scene. It was a twisted canvas, painted in blood and cruelty by the killer's own hands. Police immediately cordoned off the area. Detectives, forensic experts, and reporters swarmed the scene. They quickly identified the body as Elizabeth Short, thanks to fingerprints. She had once been briefly arrested for underage drinking, and her prints were still on file with the FBI. Within 6 hours, news of her identity had spread across the country. But the crime scene offered few answers. Elizabeth's body had been completely drained of blood. Forensic pathologists determined she had died around 10 p.m. the night before. Her corpse had been thoroughly cleaned. There were no signs of struggle, no bindings. The body had been cut in half with a sharp tool, in a manner suggesting precision, like that of a surgeon. This led police to believe the killer had medical knowledge or experience with anatomical dissection. But why cut the body in half? Why pose it like some grotesque work of art? And why drain the blood? The deeper investigators dug, the more they found themselves lost in a maze of questions with no answers. The media soon dubbed the case the Black Dahlia murder, and from that moment, Elizabeth Short became the face of one of the most horrifying and haunting murder mysteries in Los Angeles history. For the police, this was no longer an ordinary case. It was a chilling challenge from a killer who clearly knew how to toy with the fear of an entire city. Just days after Elizabeth Short's body was discovered, the Black Dahlia case became a nationwide sensation. The media swarmed the story, and bold, sensational headlines dominated the front pages. Actress cut in half. Body posed like a work of death. Then the killer made contact. On January 23, 1947, a mysterious letter was sent to the offices of the Los Angeles Examiner. The envelope was stamped and addressed with chaotic block letters. "Here is something to save you the trouble of looking. Below are some of Black Dahlia's belongings. The case, it's not over yet." Inside were Elizabeth's personal items, her social security card, birth certificate, address book, photographs, all soaked in gasoline to erase fingerprints. Each line in the note was pieced together from newspaper clippings, as if the sender wanted to give the game an artistic touch. Police concluded that only the killer could have had access to these belongings. But as if to toy with them, the envelope had been meticulously wiped. No DNA, no fingerprints, no usable clues. A few days later, another postcard arrived. "I will surrender on the 29th, at 10 a.m. Don't be late." Police set up a stakeout around the designated location, but no one showed. Instead, more postcards followed, this time mocking in tone, "You're all so stupid. I'm still out here, watching you stumble around." The killer wasn't just a murderer, he was a master manipulator, turning the investigation into a psychological game, the police into pawns, and the entire city into his audience. Detectives received over 60 false confessions. Some people came forward seeking fame, others were clearly mentally ill. Out of hundreds of suspects questioned, not a single one was charged. Every lead hit a dead end. Meanwhile, panic gripped the public. Young women were afraid to go out alone. Men with medical knowledge, doctors, med students, were suddenly under intense scrutiny. And the killer went silent. No other victims were ever definitively linked to the case. No more letters surfaced with any credibility. And as if satisfied with the chaos he had caused, with the fear and obsession he had planted, he quietly disappeared into the shadows, just as he had appeared. Among the hundreds of suspects, one name stood out like a nightmare: George Hodel, a wealthy, well-educated physician living in a Gothic-style mansion in Hollywood, with a past dark enough to make any detective shudder. George Hodel was no ordinary man. A trained surgeon, he once ran an underground abortion clinic. Back when the procedure was still illegal, he moved in eccentric artistic circles, indulged in bizarre, opulent parties, and was rumored to have a morbid fascination with death, the female body, and surrealist art. In 1949, 2 years after Elizabeth Short's murder, Hodel was arrested for incest with his own daughter, Tamar. Although he was acquitted, the trial peeled back the curtain on the shadowy world inside the Hodel residence, where nude paintings, hard liquor, and strange rituals were reportedly everyday occurrences. What drew police attention wasn't just his disturbing history. It was also the location of his home. A former employee claimed to have heard screams coming from the house on the night of the murder. And notably, the Hoddle mansion was just a few minutes' drive from where Elizabeth's body was found. In 1950, the LAPD placed a wiretap inside Hoddle's house. One recording captured a chilling statement. "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary because she's dead." Hoddle's secretary, Ruth Spaulding, had indeed died under mysterious circumstances from an apparent overdose years earlier. At the time, Hoddle had been a suspect, but was never charged. Still, words weren't enough. There was no physical evidence linking him directly to Elizabeth Short's murder. And like a toxic wind, George Hoddle left the US, relocating to the Philippines. The investigation stalled. Police never formally charged him, but the specter of Hoddle never disappeared. Years later, his own son, Steve Hoddle, a former LAPD detective, reopened the case himself. In a shocking revelation, Steve published a book titled Black Dahlia Avenger, in which he claimed his father was the killer. He presented photographs, circumstantial evidence, old witness statements, and even a disturbing resemblance between a photo found in the Hoddle house and a known image of Elizabeth. Steve went further, alleging that the Black Dahlia murder was just one of many killings his father committed. Despite the renewed attention, law enforcement maintained that there wasn't enough concrete evidence to make an official charge. George Hoddle died in 1999, taking, if true, his secrets to the grave. But to many, especially in the community of independent investigators, George Hoddle remains more than just the prime suspect. He is the embodiment of modern evil, an intelligent, wealthy killer who turned depravity into a game and succeeded in outsmarting the justice system. Elizabeth Short's death didn't just mark a brutal crime. It opened a dark chapter in the cruelty of mass media. When images of her mutilated body appeared across newspaper front pages, the public wasn't just searching for the truth. They were hunting for sensation. And in that hunt, Elizabeth became a victim a second time. Instead of referring to her by name, the press labeled her the Black Dahlia, a nickname that sounded like a character straight out of a noir novel. Mysterious, seductive, dangerous. The media dove into her private life with twisted headlines and distorted language. Loose woman, man-crazy starlet, fame-hungry tease. They dug into every relationship she'd ever had, brief romances, old letters, group photos, and turned it all into supposed evidence of a reckless lifestyle. They ignored the reality that she was a struggling young woman, constantly moving, often crashing on friends' couches, sometimes too broke to afford dinner. Elizabeth was painted as someone so desperate for fame she took dangerous risks, with insinuations that her murder was somehow inevitable. Headlines screamed, "Beautiful girl dies in love, game gone wrong. Tragedy of a Hollywood dream chaser." No facts, just cold, careless speculation. Some papers even fabricated a secret life, claiming she had affairs with powerful men despite having no proof. They tore through her past as if she were no longer a human being, but merely an image to sell copies. Even after she was laid to rest, reporters hounded her grieving family with invasive, callous questions. Was she promiscuous? Did she ever work as a call girl? Did your daughter pose for nude photos? The name Elizabeth Short, once belonging to a young woman with dreams of becoming an actress, was reduced to a symbol of a murder case, a famous corpse, a mirror reflecting the public's apathy. Hollywood, the city where she once dreamed of shining, became the very machine that devoured her name and her dignity. If her killer took her life with a scalpel, the media killed her slowly, with words just as cruel. just as merciless. The Black Dahlia case has long since been closed, but the truth is, it was never truly solved. After months of investigation, over 150 suspects questioned, and more than 60 false confessions received, the Los Angeles Police Department still couldn't name a definitive killer. There were no official arrests, no conclusive forensic findings. Every lead ended in a dead end, or worse, led to powerful names capable of burying the case altogether. What began as the biggest investigation of the 1940s slowly unraveled into a nightmare with no escape. Crime scene reports, witness statements, and police files, thousands of pages, were filed away and left to gather dust in the LAPD archives. Public hope faded. People came to accept that the killer had gotten away and justice would never be served. In 2013, the Black Dahlia case was officially added to the cold case list. While the LAPD and FBI still hold information in their databases, the likelihood of solving it is now virtually zero. Time is justice's greatest enemy. Witnesses die, evidence decays. The original investigators retire or pass away. And most of all, 1940s technology offered little help. No security cameras, no DNA testing, no smartphones to trace movements. The killer knew this and took full advantage of it. Dozens of theories have emerged over the years, from Dr. George Hodel to unknown serial killers, to speculation that Elizabeth was the victim of a twisted sex ring involving the elite. But all of it remains just that: speculation. Some believe the case was deliberately misled to protect powerful individuals. Key files reportedly vanished without explanation. Former investigators later admitted they were pressured when they got too close to certain suspects. The tragic truth is, the answer may have once been known, but was buried by the era, by influence, or by the indifference of those meant to seek justice. And so, Elizabeth Short, the girl with dreams of the silver screen, remains forever trapped in the role of the victim. No ending, no justice. Her story became a symbol of the unsolved, where the pain never finds closure. Elizabeth Short is dead, but the Black Dahlia is not. That name, once just a nickname, has transcended the identity of a single person. It became a dark symbol of Hollywood's shadow side, a place where dreams and nightmares coexist, and where a young woman can be crushed by the very spotlight she hoped to step into. Elizabeth wasn't a star. She never landed a role on screen. But her death, brutal, bizarre, and unsolved, made her known across America. Tragically, she was only remembered after her dignity, her body, and her voice had all been taken from her. In the decades that followed, her story became fodder for countless films, novels, and TV shows. The case was reenacted, the crime scene reconstructed, the killer's identity endlessly theorized, as if it were nothing more than a mystery game. Hollywood was once Elizabeth's dream, but it was Hollywood, through the invisible hands of media and entertainment, that commodified her death, stripping away the last remnants of humanity from her image. There's something most people don't know. In the final letter Elizabeth wrote to her mother, she spoke about photo shoots, about promised roles. She believed success was just around the corner, that life was about to change. Not a single line mentioned despair. She never gave up on her dream, but she never got the chance. And when her body was discovered, everything she had worked for, every good thing she tried to hold on to, was drowned beneath waves of gossip and collective obsession. People have asked, what is it about the Black Dahlia case that keeps it alive? Is it the cruelty, the mystery, or is it simply that we, those who watch from the sidelines, cannot bear an unfinished story? Whatever the reason, Elizabeth Short remains buried in a modest grave in Oakland, beneath a simple headstone. No fame, no justice, no apology, only a name, and a story the world refuses to let rest. Some cases leave behind bloodstains, some killers leave behind clues. But the Black Dahlia, she left behind a fracture, an emptiness that has never been filled. Elizabeth Short came to Hollywood carrying all the hopes of a young dreamer, only to be swallowed whole by the very city she believed in. She became a symbol of erasure, distortion, and nightmares with no answers. Nearly 8 decades have passed. Her death still lingers, in documentaries, in books, and in the memories of those who witnessed the horror. But justice does not. Her killer remains a nameless shadow. We may never know who killed Elizabeth, but that doesn't mean she was just an unsolved case. She was a real person, a daughter, a friend, a girl with ordinary, fragile dreams. If there's one thing worth remembering, it's not the cut across her mouth, not the nickname the world forced on her. It's the question. In a world where media, ambition, and cruelty can turn a human being into a symbol, have we forgotten how to listen, how to empathize? Thank you for listening to Blood Files. Join us next time as we guide you through more real stories, painful, raw, and sometimes too real to believe they ever happened.